You're watching Sonic X. Next, it's another Sonic X. Then, don't miss Yu-Gi-Oh! Zexal right here on the CW4 Kids Toon's Eye.
In my life, there are two franchises that go together like pretzels and potato chips, Kamen Rider and Super Sentai, and Anthro New England and Further Confusion happening on the same weekend. It's the speedy blue world of Sonic the Hedgehog and the dueling Nexus hub of Yugioh. While they are completely different, they both share not only a spot in my childhood, but also on the Saturday morning block of all time. If you were to ask me to go for Saturday morning cartoons, it would be none other than 4Kids on Fox, and then CW 4Kids, and then Toon's Eye, and then Vortex. We all know the story of 4Kids and Sonic and Yu-Gi-Oh! And for better or worse, that's where they found their home mostly. It was also Saturdays to wake up and see either Sonic fight off Eggman's new scheme, or the continuing story of Yugi in Battle City, or depending on the year, Jaden, Yusei, or Yuma's story. Sonic X and Yu-Gi-Oh! Were my reasons to wake up every Saturday morning early. I sat in front of the TV and watched them, and the fact that they went from the original 4Kids block all the way to its very end, with Zexal even closing off Vortex before its final sign-off, it's impressive, but also it's heartwarming. These series, and any other series after it, means a lot to me. Ever since then, they have always been a part of my life, whether it was collecting the Sonic DVDs in elementary school, like Adventures of Sonic the Hedgehog or Underground, getting structure decks during middle school, or just gushing about them and bringing my Sonic plushies and decks to school just to play with them or show them off. It was two worlds I immersed myself in. And now, after around 20 or plus years, I decided the best course of action is to combine them and discuss and answer the question some of you have been asking. What Yu-Gi-Oh! Decks do Sonic characters play? I've always had this thought in my head as I built decks and bought cards. I always thought about how both of these worlds would interact, or rather, what would Sonic characters do if they played Yu-Gi-Oh! I've always dreamed of making this video since I started making videos back in 2020, whether I was writing them in books or just scrolling through a lot of Yu-Gi-Oh! Deck lists at the time. And after years of falling in and out, struggling with the archetypes and what cards are available, as well as also the meta being really okay, and how they resonate with such in my life, I did take a break from it, but now that I have more knowledge and got back to locals after COVID, and also playing more Commander and Digimon, I am ready to share what I have researched and what I played. I was also inspired to revisit this video idea by Estic's side quest video, where he contemplated what Magic the Gathering deck South Park characters would play. It's an amazing video where he goes into details based on the app card game and the episodes, where he discusses what Commander decks the boys would play, and I think it's such an amazing watch, and you should definitely check it out. And like how he brought the love to Magic the Gathering in South Park, I wanted to bring the love to Yu-Gi-Oh! And Sonic, as Yu-Gi-Oh! Is my primary card game and Sonic is my primary media video game franchise. I mean, the Stick of Truth and Fractured Butthole are good games. Also, if I do Magic the Gathering, r/Free Magic would post this and harass me and lynch me because I'm gay and Puerto Rican and they hate minorities. Yes, they're still upset about the halftime show. Look up the Jones Act for more information. I also didn't want it to do One Piece because One Piece and 4Kids is a very touchy subject, let's just say. Oh, also the One Piece CG community is getting ravaged by scalpers and hypros. Please pray for them. Hopefully they'll resolve and overcome like Pokemon did. I also didn't do Digimon because Digimon Fusion came on Vortex literally the last year it was online, and it doesn't count because it only lasted a few months when it closed and then jumped over to Nicktoons, so not counting that. For this vid, I am choosing any and all archetypes from the TCG, meaning no anime only cards nor OCG sets not yet released in English, although the Clown Clan deck looks beautiful. I also am not too focused on meta decks because with Yu-Gi-Oh! Since there's no rotation, any cards can come back like Exodia. This is why we hate Vanguard, by the way. I also wanted to include a deck that originated from at least every Yu-Gi-Oh! Anime series with the exception of Sevens and Go Rush, because not only have I not watched them, but they're also in Rush Duels, which is a different format that hasn't been released outside of Japan. You see, I would say there's probably someone on the Japanese side who do this, but not only is Sonic not popular, but they probably cover Duel Masters instead, which is your cue to play Duel Masters even if it isn't Japanese. It's fun and an amazing card game, and hopefully it's coming back to the West soon. Please, Wizards of the Coast, you got a moneymaker here.
Excited about Duel Masters? Definitely let us know in the chat. Look forward and, let Wizards know.
Freudian slip of the century. I think the only mainline series that isn't properly repped here is the OG Duel Monsters. Not out of anything bad, but because Duel Monsters was the time where Yu-Gi-Oh! Was still figuring out what worked and what not, and not a lot of archetypes align one-to-one with Sonic characters that I can accurately give it to them. I love Duel Monsters, sweetest series in the world. and God bless her. But the cards are old as fuck. And in all honesty, this list is also based on my experience with both franchises and my collection of decks I get, as collecting Yu-Gi-Oh cards and buying pre-built decks to edit and modify is such a fun thing to do. It's like my biggest money hole. Either way, after several years in life, I am finally happy to bring you all what Yu-Gi-Oh decks with Sonic characters play. Grab yourself a snack and a glass of orange juice, and try not to reach for your deck because I play Duel and Lockbird. Cause here we go! Sonic is first and foremost about speed. Speed's his name and Sonic's his game. And in relation to the game of Yu-Gi-Oh, I conclude that there is no better deck to give him than Yusei's Stardust deck. And those who've watched 5Ds or played Stardust knows that this deck is about speed, even without the speed spells. Stardust decks usually require getting out your materials all on the field to get Stardust Dragon and pull off synchro combos. Whether it's climbing up to Crimson Dragon and then start a Cypher, or perhaps splashing Junk Warrior in, this deck wants you to go fast to make you feel alive. Staples of the deck include Junk Speeder, which involves spamming the field with Synchron Tuners in the deck, and in those Synchron Tuners are monsters that can also special summon again and again, like Jet Synchron, in which you can summon again from the graveyard, or Revolution Synchron, which gets one more card in the graveyard to bring it back if a level 7 or 8 Synchro monster is on the field. Other staples in Yusei's deck also include monsters like Sonic Chick and Quillboat Hedgehog, which got retrains thanks to their release in the legendary 5Ds decks, and both of these guys resemble the little Mobian animals that Sonic saves at the end of every level. That's not all. With cards like Synchro Zone and Synchro Rumble, you can bring back your Synchro monsters for even more Synchro materials to get more Synchro monsters like Shooting Riser Stardust Warrior and Shooting Star Dragon. Heck, even Zone like Levels in Sonic, or Rumble like Sonic Rumble. It's all about getting your Synchro monsters on the field. With this much advantage, you can Synchro Summon away and get out the Synchro monsters you need to either get a quick OTK or to full-on overpower the opponent quickly. Plus, one of Stardust Evolutions, Stardust Chronicle Spark Dragon, is kinda like Stardust Dragon's super form, which also fits considering, Sonic and Super Sonic. The deck, if played well, is kinda like Sonic, all about being fast-paced and being free and getting ahead of the game as soon as possible. Another comparison being Sonic and Yusei are pretty similar characters aside from just being the protagonist. Both Sonic and Yusei are cool characters that deeply care for the people around them while still keeping a more laid-back personality if needed. Both of them are willing to stand up for those not fortunate and have to fight for what's right, especially in some timelines, some dystopian cyberpunk society, resembling freedom and a way to fight back in their own communities and friends in dark times. And both have unconventional favorite foods like chili dogs and milk. And while Yusei isn't as necessarily adventurous as Sonic, he does have his morals and belief that he sticks by, kinda like Sonic's adventurous belief. I think despite how each presents themselves, they are pretty similar, and thus Yusei's deck would work perfect for Sonic. Oh, and I didn't forget about Classic version. As for his Classic incarnation, I believe Speedroid would fit, with Yugioh being the Synchro Pro Tag in Arc 5 due to him being from the Synchro dimension and Speedroid having a more younger appearance. I think Speedroid would work well for Classic Sonic. Both decks for Sonic, both Speed Synchro monster decks.
This is only the beginning, you'll see.
For the intelligent, always loyal, and #1 little brother sidekick Tails, I gotta give him a machine deck obviously. This was tricky, as originally to keep with the 5Ds theme, I'd slap on Morphtronic. In fact, with the cuter designs of Morphtronic and the person who uses it in 5Ds, Leo, being a brother figure to not only Luna, but also a younger brother to the rest of the 5Ds cast, Classic Tails definitely gets Morphtronic. For modern Tails, however, if there is a deck that's perfect for him, it is Yu-Gi-Oh! GX Ideal Little Brother candidate, and is none other than Sho Marufuji, aka Cyrus' Truesdale's Roids deck. Not Speed Roids, but Viacroids, which is why they put non-win Roid monster in the descriptions. Viacroids, or Roids by true definition, are a deck made up of sentient vehicles that combine into stronger fusion monsters. While a bit slower, they are a beatdown deck meant to be stronger in numbers. Usually Viacroids are weaker monsters on their own, but if played right, they can lead to bigger monsters. Unlike Stardust, it's not as fast, but with careful setup, it can hit hard. It's more so about being smart with fusion. For example, Ambulance Rescue Roid can hit hard and are good for getting back monsters that are destroyed in battle. Mobile Base is also a great fusion monster, as despite its 0 attack points, it can summon Roid fusion monsters from the extra deck if a monster on the opponent's field is less than or equal to its attack. And Ultimate Battle Machine, while very pricey material-wise, if smart, you can summon it and have a strong boss monster on the field. Not to mention, while it can't attack directly, it can make 2 attacks to wipe out 2 monsters, and with 4K it won't be an issue, and 1000 burn damage to the opponent while you're at it. I think Fiacroids are perfect for Tails, as not only does it show his technical prowess, but also how Tails may not be as fast as Sonic, but he is smart. Roids are a pretty vulnerable deck and not the strongest, so you have to be a genius to pilot it in a world filled with high-tier decks arguably stronger than it. Aside from the mechanical aesthetic and the Roids gameplay reminding me of SA2 Tails, Tails and Cyrus have similar roles to play in their stories, being seen as the sidekick and little brother, always someone in the shadows of those better than them. However, as both of their stories progresses, they succeed as establishing their own identity and becoming as good as those they idolize, both showing they can stand on their own and prove their worth after doubting themselves and comparing themselves to other people. Another detail that isn't discussed much, at least for Cyrus's end, is that both Tails and Cyrus are pretty great at what they do, but are easily intimidated, and thus limiting themselves. We see Tails get over this in the adventure games as he goes from saying "I'm not afraid" to Cyrus going to Obelisk Blue and even dueling with the cyber cards that Zane used. As for classic Tails, I mentioned Morphtronic. Not only as it fits the machine vibes, but also Leo, or Rua in the sub, fulfills the role of a little brother, especially to the rest of the 5D's crew, aside from Luna. And while classic Tails and modern Tails are mostly the same character, classic Tails does have that more naive and childish charm you'd see in Leo, as both young kids who are pretty much in dangerous situations, but still push forward. Whether it's having your heart strapped to a machine and watching the literal life sucked out of you and your sister as you pretty much suffer a near-death experience, or you become a giant and terrorize some hot dog village. Anyone else notice that Adventures of Sonic the Hedgehog uses the same tuning sounds as Arc 5?
That's why I'm the best of them.
Do you want to hear something funny? I made a script for this video back in 2021, but I struggled because, oh my god, I could not find a good fitting deck for Knuckles. And I didn't want to slap any deck on him because, you know, funny story, Knuckles is my favorite character. Yeah, I know, despite my Sonato video where I kind of figured out who I am because of Sonic and Shadow, the older I got, the more that I realized, damn, Knuckles is cooler than both of them. So I wanted to do him the most justice. So for him and Classic Knuckles, I decided 2 decks, and for Modern Knuckles, it didn't hit me until I rewatched Zexal and remembered Alito's Battling Boxer archetype. Battling Boxer is a warrior archetype, which fits Knuckles as an Echidna warrior, which, as stated, is about Battling Boxer. Gameplay-wise, the Battling Boxers truly shine in the battle phase, where they use their Xyz monsters' effects to negate effects or destroy monsters. Number 105 stars Zestus reverses the battle damage given to the opponent when battling a monster with a higher attack than it. Even outside the battle phase, Battling Boxer Iron Yote not only gives it 800 attack while protecting it, but its second effect activates, giving it a bonus 800 attack. The deck also has good starters such as Sparer, which can negate your battle phase but give you 2 materials to XC summon, good for the first turn, and Big Bandage, if needed to change a monster's level to continue XC summon. Or if you go second, use Switch Hitter to get another Battling Boxer out of the graveyard to special summon. And of course, spells and traps to help rank up, like Cross Counter to not only destroy a monster, but bring out a Battling Boxer Xyz monster for free, with the trap card as material. No Xyz material in graveyard? Well, you can use its other support cards to get a card from your deck to the graveyard with Battling Boxing Spirits. Knuckles is all about the shit rock yeah punch, and being the power in Team Sonic, Battling Boxer is the perfect fit for him. It hits hard, can be resourceful, and also protective of themselves, like how Knuckles is protective of the Master Emerald. Not to mention, Alito and Knuckles both have similarities in being the form of a warrior. In Alito's past life, he was a gladiator who fought with his bare hands much like Knuckles, and also is a servant of the Barian world, loyal to the cost of fighting against Astral World. Alito is also a mini rival to Yuma, as after dueling him, he becomes nicer to him until the latter half of Zexal 2, where he once again becomes an antagonist, kinda like how Knuckles befriends Sonic after realizing Eggman was tricking him in 3. Plus, I think of his final duel with Yuma, where his first move he immediately goes for a 1-turn kill. It shows that Alito doesn't need Yuma's power. As for Classic Knuckles, I'd give him Infernity, not only because of the cowboy aesthetics and I think of the OVA where he has that cool hat, but also, like Kalen, Knuckles was also tricked to believe something different about the friends he had, or at least the person that was about to become his friend, with Kalen thinking that Yusei wanted to get him arrested when in reality, Yusei wanted to save Kalen. Kinda like how Sonic wanted to protect the Master Emerald from Eggman, but Knuckles thinking otherwise.
Follow me inside, outside, through the stratosphere!
For Kristen Bell herself, this might sound a bit cliche, but I'm gonna give Amy a Black Rose plant deck. Amy is a speed type character who can hit hard with her Pico Pico hammer, and the Rose deck fits both that and her aesthetic. I mean, it's in the name, Rose. Monsters like Ruddy Rose Witch and White Rose Dragon are strong starters that not only give you an immediate synchro with the materials, but also have extra effects such as adding more monsters to the hand and climbing up to heavy synchro monsters like Black Moonlight and Ruddy Rose Dragon. If not, you got useful synchro monsters like Cross Rose Dragon, Garden Rose Maiden, and Splendid Rose Dragon, which helps in a pinch, especially for Cross Rose's second ability to special summon a Rose Dragon from the graveyard. Not to mention spell cards like White Rose Cloister and Miracle Fertilizer continues to improve the board state in your favor. The high speed and usefulness fits Amy's character well. She's fast to want to keep up to Sonic, can hit hard like the Rose Dragon's abilities, and also has similar colors with pink and red becoming a dominant color in the art. You also get benefits by synchro summoning with the monsters, not only thinking with strength, but with smarts. Amy is no Tails, but she has been shown to be smart, such as sneaking into Prison Island just to get Sonic out or leading the resistance during IDW. Amy is someone who's ready to not only help others, but put her strongest foot forward, even being described as graceful and powerful, much like the Rose Dragon archetype. Like Yusei and Sonic, comparisons between Amy and Aki or Akiza can also be drawn, and this isn't just both being the main lovers of the series as well. Both Amy and Aki are caring people who look out for their friends and tries to serve as the one to keep others together. They believe in the best of their teammates, and at times they come off as the more mature member of the group. They've also been pretty persistent with their love for the main hero, or dropping hints such as the Coco romance scene or Aki and Yusei figure skating. Wait, no, that's roller skating. Another smaller detail is their relationship to magic or the supernatural in their series, as Amy has her tarot cards, and Aki is a psychic duelist that can pretty much do the shadow game stuff, but in 5Ds. So Amy and Aki are pretty similar, and I do believe that Black Rose Dragon deck would fit Amy perfectly. For classic Amy, I'd say Fortune Lady works best for her, as not only her tarot cards, but the character who plays it in the anime, Carly Carmine, has the same love and obsession with Jack Atlas that Amy has for Sonic, and classic Amy, seen as more younger, definitely has that. Amy's the first character to have a full lineup of 5Ds decks, and to be honest, it's well deserved. I mean, Amy is cool, and 5Ds has some of the greatest decks I've ever seen. I'm more nostalgic for the Synchro monsters, considering that was sort of the era I fell on into for Yu-Gi-Oh!
That was so much fun! Thank you, everyone!
Oh, Cream is easy. And to start it off, let me ask you, for both Sonic and Yu-Gi-Oh! Fans, what is the species that starts out as an adorable baby and grows differently based on the environment it's in? For Sonic fans, it's easy. That goes to the ever-iconic Chao. But for Yu-Gi-Oh! Fans, this is tricky. No, it's not the tricky. It's none other than the ever-adorable Pearly. So for a quick rundown on Pearly, Pearly is a canine, feline, pet monster something that is taken in by children for their cuteness, and the memories they have help influence and develop them into bigger and stronger monsters with different attributes and effects. You start off with Pearly, a level 1 monster, or Pearly, and with quick play spells you can XC summon into a Pearly monsters. Depending on the quick play you use and the XC's monsters, you get an additional effect, such as using Pearly Happy Memory to summon a Pearly Happiness to have the attack of one monster in the field alongside its retrieval ability, eventually to its final form, X-Pearly, with cards like Pearleap as your go-to trap card, for monsters like X-Pearly Happiness and Noir. Just like Chao, which can grow depending on how they're treated, Pearlies can grow based on the memories they have. For example, the Chaos can be influenced into Hero or Dark Chao depending on the character they spend time with, Hero or Dark, or Abuse, but please don't do that. This is perfect for Cream because of her connection to the Chaos, with her loving sidekick being Cheese and her adventures with Team Rose to rescue Chocola, as well as Pearly wanting to be cared for by young children like Cream, another perfect pet for her. The Pearly deck would be the perfect pick for a kind and loving child like Cream, and by extension, Cheese. Maybe Cheese can ride on Pearly, as Pearly and Ep-Pearly and X-Pearly can fit small children, so you know, Cheese and Pearly can be great friends.
I'm so happy.
Frogs. Next.
A foregone conclusion.
Shadow's deck is a fun one I thought of, and for both crowds you're gonna enjoy it, and it's none other than that of Branded, with the main star himself, Fallen of Albaz. Shadow and Albaz, both strange creatures with black and red as their main colors that befriend a blonde-haired girl, both girls far away from their home, and has their new friend to guard them. Oh yeah, Shadow will love Albaz. Gameplay-wise, the goal of Branded is to get Fallen of Albaz out on the field to fusion summon the dragon monsters of the extra deck. While not as fast, it makes up for it in powerful effects and strong quick effects meant to shut down opponent plays. My favorite, Lubellion, the Sea-Earing Dragon, gets you an extra fusion at the cost of discarding the card, meaning you can bring out another powerful fusion monster or upgrade Lubellion to other fusion monsters in the extra deck, with a major target being Mirror Jade, with the goal of banishing one monster off the field with the cost of an extra deck monster, and also being a quick effect, meaning that it can either be during your turn or the opponent's turn. To me, this reminds me of Shadow's signature move, Chaos Control, as the quick effects can resemble Shadow manipulating time and space to turn the battle in his favor. And for the monsters that don't have quick effects like Alba Lenatus the Abyss Dragon, their effects are monstrous, as you can attack a number of times equal to the monster's use for its fusion summon, or Sprint the Iron Dash Dragon, which can wipe out every other card in its column. Bonus, you can use Spring to summon Mirror Jade if needed to get him out, and you can bring back Albaz for more fusion summoning. To me, this parallels Shadow's brute strength, not to mention the Doom powers from Sonato Generations can resemble Albaz lore-wise, as all of these fusion monsters require Albaz, as in the lore, Albaz fuses with different energies he gains, kinda like how Shadow absorbs Black Doom's powers and uses it for good. I also think about the scene where he holds Maria's hand to assure her everything is okay, kinda like how in the anime, Albaz was laying on Ecclesia after de-transforming just to protect her. Albaz is one of the most powerful cards in the game, and not only that, it has its own cult following in the fanbase, much like Shadow, who has practically his own fanbase in the Sonic fandom and being the most popular character by far. Shadow wielding Albaz as his deck of choice complements not only the Hedgehog, but Albaz himself, as both are indeed the ultimate life form.
Feast your eyes on a champion.
Rouge is easy. For a girl whose gems are hers to keep, she is getting none other than the Gem Knights deck. I mean, can you think of any other deck better than that for one of the most iconic Jewel Thieves? A beatdown or FTK deck that operates on using Fusion Monster's effect to burn for damage. The graveyard becomes important to the deck, as not only does it help you burn for more depending on how many are in the graveyard, such as with Lady Lapis Lazuli, but can also give you bonuses, such as Master Diamond, giving you 100 attack for each in the graveyard. Sending to the graveyard is a mechanic that is heavily used outside of such, with monsters like Lady Rose Diamond having a quick effect to destroy one monster on the field by banishing monsters from the graveyard. And if you want it back, the effect monster Gem Knight Amber can easily return it and give you one more Gem Knight card in the graveyard, so you can keep Gem Knights in the graveyard as materials. Heck, even the normal monsters are no pushover, with the level 4 Sapphire having 2100 defense, good for a set monster. Gem Knight fusions can also be good, as you can banish monsters from the graveyard to return it for more fusion summoning, and it's not locked for once per turn, meaning you can combo off with pieces like Quartz and Brilliant Fusion. How does this relate to Rouge? Well, to me, the graveyard feels like a collection, one that Rouge dreams of having. Gem Knight is a pretty search-heavy deck, and in order to get all your pieces to fusion summon and trigger graveyard effects, much like how Rouge collects the gems in her gameplay of SA2, the graveyard in her collection, and it can reward her at times. Thus, why not give her the gems that she wants? E123 Omega is all about destroying robots, destroying the competition, and proving himself to be the strongest. Omega is cold-blooded like his armor, but without the blood of course, proving he's better than any worthless fodder. I mean, come on, how can I not give him a cyber deck? Not only does it fit the machine and brute force approach of Omega, but if you watched GX, you know how cruel Zane can be after Season 2, going from a noble duelist to respected Judai despite never losing to him, and willing to sacrifice himself, to a cruel and heartless, literally, duelist who only seeks to win with his skills regardless of who gets hurt. Plus, the lore of Cyber Dragon fits, as the units are meant to be battle effective and capturing live specimen. In fact, in the lore, there are two factions that chase the idea of having absolute derivative force to change the tide of battle in one strike. Cyber Dragon is a household name in the Yu-Gi-Oh franchise. The Cyber Dragons, or Cyber Archetypes, primarily focus on fusion summoning high-attack boss monsters with the occasional Xyz monsters, all about brutally attacking your opponent for high damage output and equipping monsters from the grave to fuel your fusion monsters. Fusion monsters like Cyber Dark and Dragon need you to equip Cyber monsters in order to consistently make attacks at a whopping 5,000 attack each time, bulldozing almost any monster and at times wiping out your opponent's life points. The attacks doesn't just stop at monsters, as the Cyber archetype also supports the Chimera Tech archetype, and with Chimera Tech Rampage Dragon, you can clear out most spells and trap cards that would be a problem on the field, especially if you use a lot of fusion material monsters via cards like Future Fusion or Cyber Load Fusion. A second factor is a lot of Cyber monsters send cards from the deck to the graveyard, such as Cyber Duck Cannon, which plays off of Cyber Dragon Noxter to special summon. Unlike Rouge, where you collect gems, this is Omega racking up a kill count with the graveyard and using brute force to destroy fodder opponents or consumer models. Oh, and who can forget this deck is supported with even more power-inducing spells, such as the ever-iconic Power Bond, which was a huge plot point in Season 1 of GX with Cyrus and Zane. Double the attack but take damage is a brutal one. Just like what Omega would have wanted, and Zane. But in the dub, he's technically dead because they didn't do Season 4 where Rio comes back to life, weirdly. It's not about saving the animals like Gamma. Omega's about being destructive and strong. If Omega had a heart, nothing would change. He may have heart problems like Rio, but nothing will change. Either way, Omega would wield Cyber Dragon, specifically Cyber Dark, to surpass his limits to prove him as the ultimate robot. And speaking of, let's meet his mortal nemesis with this next pick.
For your racing master.
With that little lore I dropped of Cyber, you would think I would give Eggman himself a Cyber deck too, but I didn't want to be repetitive. Not to mention, Eggman has a lot of deck ideas I believe he can use. For starters, I can give him the main antagonist decks such as Arcana Force, Sacred Beast, or Dawn 1000, but not only do neither fit him, Eggman is way more of a character to just get some random boss deck. I also thought of giving him Mech Lord to counter Sonic both as a villain and the recent deck I gave him, but that didn't fit right, so after thinking, I thought of the perfect deck, Springins. Now hear me out. When I think of Eggman, I think of not only his mechanical prowess, but the many colorful yet dangerous and destructive robots he uses as boss monsters to destroy Sonic and friends. Not only do I think of the fun ones we saw in Sonic X, like the teacher and the baseball units, but also in Rush and Unleashed, where we saw these cool looking but killer robots. Not only were they different, but also stylish, and had personality much like the Springins. When you see the Springins art, it's awesome, filled with color and vibrancy. Just take a look at monsters like Rocky and Pidor. They look like bootleg Badniks, and I love them. It reminds me of the newer Badniks and Jobbers you'd see in modern Sonic games. Springins also get stronger when they attach to each other as Xyz materials, something Eggman would do to increase power to fight Sonic. Not to mention lore-wise, Springins work with their ship, Springin Ship Explorer, which can pop cards in adjacent zones, depending on how many Xyz materials the player detaches from Explorer. Now to me, that feels like an Eggman attack, something you'd see in Rush. And lore-wise, it's the base of operation for Springins, and that makes me think of the Egg Carrier, aka This Must Be the Way to the Sky deck from Sonic Adventure. Springin's Merrymaker can also send an extra deck monster that mentions Valen of Albas, which, if you remember earlier what deck I gave Shadow, we can call back to how Eggman's grandfather, Ivo Robotnik, created Shadow. As I mentioned, his deck is Brandon. Thus, with the synergy with Shadow's deck, Eggman would be, plus Rouge, since Gem Knights is also fusion-based but with way less synergy. I've been saying Springins a lot, but have we ever thought about how Springins sound? Springins. Now that joke's out of the way, you might be sitting here thinking about classic Eggman or Dr. Robotnik, and I have an interesting choice for this. This might be controversial, and you might want to switch this with his modern counterpart, but I'm giving him Ancient Gear. My reason being because of who plays Ancient Gear and the aesthetics of Ancient Gear. Crowler from GX is the main antagonist turned side character in Season 1, always trying to get Judai expelled, and in comparison to the rest of the villains in GX, he comes off as a Saturday morning cartoon villain. We were just talking about that. Which calls me back to my favorite Sonic cartoon, Adventures of Sonic the Hedgehog, where Robotnik is a full-on gag villain, and I love it. While Crowler can be serious, he's more so of a laid-back villain compared to the rest, and I love his silly attitude, as well as him saying "Nanno ne." Crowler or Cronus really captures the evil villain, like Robotnik did in Adventures of Sonic the Hedgehog. But on the flip side, Ancient Gear cards have a grittier look, and the monsters look more intimidating and ruthless than Springins. This to me calls to Robotnik's incarnation in Sad AM, which to me is his most intimidating incarnation in Classic. I mean, look at Robotropolis and Geartown side to side. Both have that post-apocalyptic and robotic gear vibe that lets you know you're in for a dangerous time. Also, Robotnik's pet Cluck? Yeah, that's Ancient Gear Wyvern. And like I said, this one I feel both can use depending on the iteration because Eggman can be intimidating, especially in Sonic Adventure 1. But Sad AM Robotnik to me was Robotnik/Eggman in his evilest form, and his robots and the atmosphere matches the dark and gritty atmosphere. These decks are perfect for the Eggman.
I humbly accept that I'm the best.
Getting into Team Chaotix, we got the obvious choices for Espio and Charmy. Ninjas and Bee-Troopers. Bee-Troopers, true to their insect motif, is about swarming the field with Bee-Trooper monsters to link up to Invincible Atlas, fusion summon Absolute Hercules, or special summon Mighty Neptune for heavy hitters and Atlas's retrieval effect. While there's actually only one bee in this insect archetype, Charmy would just see himself in the card and absolutely love the power and strength it can be. And while ninjas are a generic type of deck, it's true to its name with cool fusion monsters like Maizen, flip summoned effects like Hanzo and Ninjutsu art spell, trap cards like Art of Mystery and Duplication. It fits Espio's aesthetic as a ninja. Also, Ninjutsu art of Mosquito matching can synergize with Charmy's Bee-Trooper deck. Also, Espio did say in Chaotix Casefiles he wanted a challenge, and since Ninja isn't meta, he can surely test his dueling ninja skills with high-tier decks. The only thing with Espio is that there is a character that plays Ninja in Arc 5 Tsukikage. Also, why the hell did they translate his name to Moonshadow for the dub? Like, yes, Tsukikage is Moonshadow, but like, Tsukikage is cooler. Like, in Buddy Fight, they kept the name and have people know what it means via Zanya's cards, and Ninja cards can do that too in Yu-Gi-Oh! Like, if Buddy Fight can do that, you can. Anyway, now let's get ready to cover the head honcho of Team Chaotix, Vector the Crocodile.
Yahoo! Dance party!
Vector as a character always made me smile, and that's not including the fact that he was the only Chaotix members in crossover games for the longest. He's loud, kind, and downright silly, and his crush of Vanilla and his love for his detective team never fails to make me smile. But he's also the lead detective, a title he holds proudly. If you're a Yu-Gi-Oh fan, especially in the modern day, there's one archetype around detectives and solving the case. It's a case for K9. For those out of the loop or haven't been to locals, K9 is a deck all about giving advantages through normal summoning K9 monsters and XC summoning. Their monster effects range from special summoning each other from deck like with K904 Noroi or hand like K900 Lupus, all to build up to XC's monsters, which has become iconic in recent metagame like K917 Ripper, which can add one K9 to hand from deck and then set one K9 quick play spell. This leads me to the next part of the analysis. Quick spells is crucial not only in K9, but the metagame. Look no further than cards like Called by the Grave and Crossout Designator. K9 quick play spells not only special summon one K9 XC's monster, but also setting themselves again. K9X Forced Release does this and adds the bonus of destroying one card your opponent controls, and it's non-targeting. And of course, we cannot talk about K9 without discussing the ever-famous A Case for K9. It not only adds one K9 monster on activation, but also gives your K9 monsters 900 attack on the field, and if destroyed, you can add one quick play. With someone who's the power of Chaotix, while also being more than capable to handle himself despite his demeanor, this is perfect for Vector. A hard-boiled detective playing a detective-themed deck with A Case being the main starter. Yeah, Vector is playing this. However, I don't think K9 is enough for the Crocodile, as he needs to bump his deck up more. I think Vector's deck needs some monsters for hire, because Team Chaotix is always looking for hire. I put for hire into K9 a little extra boost that's needed. For hire's Swarm mechanic plays off of K9's normal summoning and can link summon to have a stronger board state with Vogel and Donner along with Fossil Dig. To be honest, when I first drafted this video, I originally was going to give Vector Spiral, as not only do I love the deck, but also Spirals are the closest we got to Detective or Secret Agents. However, with Justice Hunters not only being a powerhouse of a set and CK9 in play, I just had to put some love. And what better is giving a detective deck to a crocodile detective searching for a case. Shout out my friend Pix for giving me this deck list. It's so cool.
Now you see what I can really do.
Silver is easy. Psychic. He has telekinesis and from the future, which is a big part of the 5D's plot. The future aspect, we'll get to that. And it's also focused on synchro summoning. Also, Silver can add some Psi Frame Gear cards for synchro material and for ham traps, like Beta, which can destroy a monster and end the battle phase, non-targeting by the way, or Delta to destroy a spell. And from there, you also got a tuner to synchro summon if needed, as synchro monsters have quick effects too to counter anything. Even non-Psi frame cards like Hushed Psychic Minister, which targets one monster and banishes it to the end phase, potentially leaving a clear path for OTK or board wipe. So in other words, it's no use to the opponent. Not to mention psychic monsters also play with banishing and the cards teleport, like emergency teleport to get tuners for psychic synchro summon, or teleport fusion for the fusion monsters in a psychic deck. And for banishing, you can banish and special summon such as with Psychic Blaster MK2, or the aforementioned fusion monsters with Axon, Kicker, Oracle, where you can banish a teleport card to special summon it from the graveyard when sent there. The teleporting and summoning from banishing can be like how Silver teleports and transports back from the future to the past and vice versa. It's time traveling. The deck also fits Silver, as Silver is straightforward, who doesn't necessarily fall for stuff and believes in justice, even if he's kinda rude, especially in his Japanese interpretation, and I like that. He believes in pure Psychic. Psychic and Silver go hand in hand, and pure Psychic with Teleport is more than enough as a deck for Silver to wield in his dreams of an absolution. When making this video, Blaze was like the opposite of Knuckles, as where I struggled to find one deck for Knuckles, I struggled to give one deck to Blaze. By that I mean, there were so many good decks for her, because of her element of fire. From Rush to 06, Blaze's attacks heavily incorporate fire in it, so it's right to give her a proper fire deck. It's in her powers and her style. So I contemplated 4 decks for her: Volcanic, Fire King, Salaman Great, and Infernoble. Volcanic for its burn damage effect, and Austin O'Brien, aka Axel Brody, being the GOATs of GX, Salaman Great for its constant evolving / self-summoning, and Takeru Homura, Theodore Hamilton, being another secondary rival to Yusaku, but neither deck really resonates with Blaze. The last two both fit because of their status of nobility, but in the end, Infernoble beat out Fire King. Sorry about that, Ren. Bias also came in here because Infernoble Knights is such a fun deck that does not get enough love. I love playing it. Sure, it's not as meta as Fire King and not tied to characters like Volcanic and Salaman Great, but Infernoble Knight has a fun playstyle that not only acts with equip cards and strong synchro monsters like Emperor Charles, but also upgrades and improves on the existing Noble Knights cards. And for the Princess of the Soul Empire and Guardian of the Soul Emeralds, of course she'd get a Noble deck. Infernoble's equip spells are the name of the game. Cards like Durandal can add Fire Warrior monsters from the deck to the hand, in which you can add Roland for a quick effect equip for 500 attack, or Hotclair for a double attack, making for a quick OTK with the right equipment. The equip spells also have removal effects, such as Durandal returning monsters from the grave, or Hotclaw destroying a monster on the field. The Trap Continuing Epic of Charles also helps you special summon and equip. Oh, and look at the cute art. Along with great starters like Renaud and Ricciardetto, Infernoble Knights have a lot of good monsters to combo often, kinda like those combo poses Blaze does in Rush, while you die in the first level. Also monsters like Astolfo and Magus, which will help recover monsters and increase draw power. Both the Noble and Fire aesthetics just line up with Blaze's Noble character and her blazing style, as well as being a heavy combo deck, much like the combos and skills you need to play Sonic Rush, aka the best Sonic game.
Feel the power of Babylon!
Oh, this one is going to be my favorite. I knew this was going to be his deck, and this thought was one of the big inspirations for this whole video. I not only have a fondness for the character, but also the deck, as this one was the first competitive one I had that wasn't the starter decks I had. For Jet the Hawk himself, I am more than honored to give him Black Wings. I mean, come on, both Jet and Crow are hotheads ready to prove themselves and help their team out, even if Jet's ego gets in the way a lot. But aside from that, they also have the level of cool around them that makes you go, damn, birds are awesome. Black Wings, as expected, is not only a speedy deck, but a super cool deck about birds. Aside from mass synchro summoning, it's super easy to just summon monsters like Chris the Crack of Dawn and Bora the Spear. Good level 4s to use with Oster the South Wind to bring out Black Wing Dragon. Or if you're in a pinch for levels, Heartmodden the Dust can easily modify itself for a quick synchro summon. Of course, you can't talk about Black Wings without the iconic spells like Black Whirlwind or Black Feather Whirlwind, which gives you a monster from the deck and also special summons a monster from the grave respectively. Not only building a board, but also increasing the amount of synchro materials, the goal of the deck. Which, oh my god, I'm getting so nostalgic. Some of my favorites for Jet would be a Full Armor Master, a card that puts a wedge counter whenever a monster activates an effect. By putting a wedge counter, you can not only take control of the monster, but destroy it after use, really showing off Jet's cocky attitude to overpower those that get in his way. Chidori the Rain Sprinkling gains 300 attack for each Black Wing in the graveyard, which is a good end piece for quick kills, and one of my personal favorites I run in my deck. But my favorite and my boss monster of my deck was using Boreas Storm's effect to send a monster from deck to the graveyard to change its level to the monster's scent. And as a Synchro Tuner, you can use Boreas Storm and your other Synchro monsters to summon Onimaru the Divine Thunder to do 6k in one turn thanks to its effect. This fits Jet, someone who's quick to summon, quick to get in the lead, and quick to spit in your face. For a rude and cocky guy, Black Wings fit him. It's the best deck for one of the best characters, and man, it's great. And for Wave and Storm, I'd say Black Wings work well for them too, but for Wave, I'd also argue Raid Raptor, as Raid Raptor is more mechanical and more technical aesthetically wise to fit her intelligence, and being the Tails counterpart. Okay, so think about this with Metal Sonic. Both who have taken the roles of someone who is seen as a hero, uses their mechanical prowess to pretty much defeat the OG and prove they're better or save the future. If you're thinking Zone and Time Lords, you are correct. With the goal of burn damage and having big monsters, Metal Sonic would play Time Lords to not only counter Sonic, but prove he is the best. Raphion, Michion, and Synadion all dealing damage outside of battle, and cards like Saphion, Lazion, and Kamion, hey that's me, shuffling cards into the deck for disruption. It's a deck that can speak to Metal Sonic, and also there are comparisons with Zone and Metal, being people talking about the face of heroes but with different goals. Both also revolve around time travel with their respective stories. While not perfect, I think Metal would do good with Time Lords.
Proof of my superior design.
Sage is a fun choice, mainly because I've kind of been saving this series for her. I haven't given out any decks from this series, and it's the only series I haven't touched aside from Duel Monsters. So of course, for the series all about AI and virtual reality, and Sage being an AI being, she is definitely getting a deck from Vrains. More specifically, we will be giving Sage Code Talkers. Code Talkers is a Cyberse deck, and one of the first of the archetypes to form when it was introduced in the Vrains era. An archetype that uses link monsters to swarm the field and give power based on linking with arrows, by using cards like On Code Talker to battle without destroying it or risk being destroyed by a monster, Power Code to negate a target's effect, and Transcode to prevent targeting. You can also gain attack via connections, such as the aforementioned Transcode, giving co-linked link monsters 500 attack, and the ever-iconic Decode Talker to gain 500 attack for each monster it points to, and the staple, Access Code Talker, which banishes link monsters that were used for materials to summon Access Code Talker, and which it gains attack equal to the link rating of the banished monster times 1000. Support cards like Cynet Codec can get quick link material on link summon, and Code Hack can make opponents' monsters reach 0 for battles, crashing into your link monsters. Cynet Mining can also get more in exchange for one card in your hand, and Cynet Universe to reshuffle that card to the deck while giving your link monsters 300 attack. If not using that field spell, then Cynet Storm can prevent link summons from being negated and give link monsters on the field 500 attack and defense. This deck is less aggro and more about controlling the board state, having a tough time breaking monsters off the field and preventing destruction, while also having powerful monsters to OTK or clear monsters. Kinda like Sage and her wanting to not only protect the islands, but protect her father, Eggman. Heck, if you squint hard enough, you can imagine that the Guardians and the Titans are kinda like these deformed, very generic, Code Talkers. Yeah, I mean Sage controls them during the story, so it's perfect. Also, her and Yusaku are pretty similar in that they aren't friendly people. While kinder to Sonic and friends compared to other Eggman creations, even Omega at times, she'd never cross Eggman, as she's her daughter. She's dedicated to growing the Eggman Empire and won't stop at nothing. Kinda like Yusaku's goal of wanting to defeat the Knights of Hanoi for the Hanoi incident, and then eventually stop Bowman and his own partner Ai. Both work with people to aim for their goals, but they don't want friends, they want a mission accomplished. Both are dedicated to their beliefs and how they interact, but at times they can show their kindness. With the AI motive, their similar personalities, Sage would 100% go with Brains and play Code Talker.
Such is my might.
I could not care less about these characters, so Monarch I guess? Anyway, I think I covered every Sonic character. Wait, I forgot the 5 of us. That joke sucked.
Congratulations!
I wanted to hold off on this video because of Tangle and Whisper getting into racing's Crossworlds, and their voice debuted in Chaotix Casefiles, and god, I'm so glad they're here. Not only are they a fun addition, but would make great duelists. Tangle is obviously getting a warrior deck, and by looking at her personality and fiery desire for adventure and wanting to tangle with evildoers, she's a hero, or in Yu-Gi-Oh terms, a hero. Hero cards are one of the most iconic archetypes in the franchise, and considered a classic up there with Kuriboh, Blue Eyes, and Dark Magician. Monsters like Stratos being overpowered that it was banned for years because of its effect to add a hero monster from deck to hand without anyone's return. Stratos isn't alone, as monsters like Liquid Soldier special summoning one hero monster from the graveyard and then gives you draw 2 discard 1 for using it as a fusion material. This synergizes with Vision Hero Vion to send a hero from the deck to the graveyard, or you can send Destiny Hero Malicious to banish it from the graveyard to special summon another copy on the field. Such an iconic hero card. This leads us to the hero deck's staples, fusion monsters. Monsters like Elemental Hero Sunrise not only gives you 200 attack for each monster with different attributes, but also add Miracle Fusion for more hero fusion monsters. Masked Hero Dark Law banishing 1 card from an opponent's hand when they add a card from deck to hand, and you use Mask Change. Fun fact, they were inspired by Kamen Rider, which is amazing. Oh, and Link monsters like Extra Hero Wonder Driver can recover fusion spells from graveyard to the field. I can go all in all about heroes, but they're like one of the most popular archetypes, and there's a buttload of fusion monsters that I tried to use as locals, and I ended up getting beat. This also extends to her similarities with Judai Yuki, both adventurous and positive characters that are all about doing the right thing and making friends. Pretty basic bones considering Judai's genocidal tendencies, but Tangle has the makings of a hero, and a hero player.
Congratulations!
Whisper uses an Arc Wizard Bay for her main stamina bay, and also has Lance Knight for her wait, wrong Holbiani. As for Whisper, she's known as being a marksman, working with her wisp friends and, well, whispering. For a marksman who's on the technical side, I believe Magical Musket works best for her, as Magical Musket is not only gun-themed, but it relies on spells and traps being activated in the same column as monsters to activate bonus effects. For example, if you activate a Steady Hands in the same column as Casper, you not only can power up Casper, but also get a Magical Musket monster from deck to hand, except the spell activated. Or the trap card Last Stand, which can destroy a spell/trap card, and when played in the same column as Medic, Doc, you can recover a Magical Musket card from your graveyard. Magical Musketeer Max, the current boss monster that's released in the TCG, can either supply you with the Magical Musket spell or traps, or special summon Magical Muskets from the deck. The more control playstyle, as well as the gun theme, works with Whisper, as alongside her use of weapons and gun motif like in the cards, anyone who's played Forces and Colors, but mostly Colors, knows how the Wisps have different abilities when fused with Sonic and give him power-ups like... For the technical aspect, Whisper can definitely enjoy using this deck, as I believe each of the muskets shine when fused with another spell or trap or another monster effect, kinda like how the Wisps work best when fused with Sonic or the Wispon cannon that Whisper uses. Before I go into the last 2 characters, I want to speed round some characters from both comics to not only give them love, but also shout out other decks that appear. For Jewel the Beetle, Crystal Beast for the crystal aesthetic, Dr. Starline, Magical Scientist OTK, because both are dead, Surge, Thunder Dragons for lightning, also that one kid from OCG Structures, we'll get to that, Kitsunami, Atlanteans for water, Belle, Gimmick Puppet because fan service, Sally, Noble Knights as royalty herself, Rotor, Gen X for the technological and more techie side, Antoine, Arcana Knight for he is a knight, hey look, a Yu-Gi-Oh! Duel Monsters deck, technically, Bunny, Tech Genius, Nicole, at Ignister, she's AI, Marine, Plunder Patrol, Mighty, Super Heavy Samurai for his specialty in defense like Gong, also Gong's the goat of Arc 5, Ray, he loves flying so give him Fluendrees, plus the designs are pretty cute and all, Wade, Fire Kings, because the flames of disaster! See Ren, I got one in. Now time for the final 2, with one being a favorite of mine, the edgiest Sonic character, Infinite. Infinite was one I had Umbral Horror with, not only for the edgy vibe, but also because he reminded me of Vector from Zexal, especially with how Vector hated Shark/Nash, like how Infinite is jealous and crashes out because of Shadow. But I found another deck that fits him, Evil Eye, and because of its similarities to the Phantom Ruby. In Yu-Gi-Oh! Lore, or the small part Evil Eye has, Evil Eye of Selene is a ruby gem where 2 monsters, Zerziel and Medusa, fight for the power. Kinda like how the Phantom Ruby is powerful and becomes one with Infinite. Like the Phantom Ruby, the Evil Eye of Selene is the key to this deck, and you want it on your field to activate bonus effects such as the field spell Pareidola, which gives your opponent the same amount of damage you take when an Evil Eye monster is attacked, awakening special summoning, and Evil Eye monster or Medusa to banish monsters from the graveyard. All this to get your Link boss monster out, Zerziel and Gorgon. Zerziel, you need Selene in order to get the Evil Eye monsters up to 2000s, also with effects triggered by Evil Eye of Selene, Zerziel to destroy a monster, and Gorgon to negate the monster. This feels like Infinite's 3 fights he has in Forces and his desire for power. His sadistic style and means to gain power can resemble an Evil Eye and fits his evil aesthetic, even though he's just a bum. Now for the final character, the big boss, and voiced by Mandy's fave, Mephiles the Dark. What is there to say about Mephiles aside from, honestly, I think he's one of my favorite Sonic villains too. He's one of the only Sonic villains to actually kill Sonic. He's one of the only Sonic villains to actually get to Shadow's head post-Adventure 2, and even though his plan is kinda stupid, there's something about him that is terrifying. It's evil. He takes the form of someone who was once evil, now changed, and turns it into this sadistic being, even worse by his other transformations. That reminds me of a deck I use in a deck that's close to me, Memento. For those who don't know, Memento is a deck that's all about bringing back old classic monsters from OG Yu-Gi-Oh! Into newer, more meta decks. For example, Anguish becomes Mementolian Anguish, and how Darkblade, which was almost in every starter and structure deck in the 2010s, became Mementotlan Darkblade. It's a really interesting deck, but the key factor about the deck is destruction. You destroy your monsters to either get them in the graveyard or summon other monsters. For example, Mementotlan Tatsu can pop itself to put monsters with its level less than or equal to into the graveyard. One of them you want to bring out is Mementotlan Gaddock, which can summon itself from the graveyard when placed there, which can be used for Link monsters or fusion monsters, as Memento is a fusion deck, focused on bringing out fusion monsters like Creation King, which can send Memento monsters from the deck to the graveyard, and pop itself and other Memento cards on the field for more destruction on the opponent's field, as well as Mementotlan Twin Dragon, which can also pop itself or another Memento monster to add 2 Memento monsters from your deck to the hand. But the boss monster isn't found in the extra deck, but rather in the main deck, with the monster Combined Creation, which is summoned by shuffling the monsters in the graveyard back to the deck to bring it out, either from hand or graveyard. And if it's the only monster in the field, it can attack any monster you can. If an opponent activates an effect, you can special summon 1 Memento monster from the hand or graveyard. Aside from spell cards like Boneback or Bone Party, which can help you special summon more Memento monsters or destroy any Memento monsters to activate its respective effects, this deck is all about destruction, destroying your own monsters and trying to bring as much damage and attack you can with Combined Creation or Creation King. And this to me fits Mephiles. Destruction, sadism. Mephiles is one of the most evil Sonic villains in the lore, and I think this fits him well, with the dark atmosphere, the way the monsters mirror the original older monsters, kind of like how Mephiles' shadow form mimics Shadow. It really resonates with him well, and I think it works perfectly. Also, Mephiles is voiced by Dan Green, so throw in Exodia. Ooh, I ran out of steam there. I think we're good for all the Sonic characters, right? Actually, there's one more I want to cover. Before I wrap up, there's one last character I want to highlight for this video, and that's the Avatar. The Avatar from Forces. Can Sonic Crossworlds actually put Sega characters in and not third party? His deck is Tenyi, but also Gearfried, but also Gaia, but also Virtual World, and also Amazement. And wait a second. Why is he getting all these decks? I thought it was limited to one. Well, because I am giving the Avatar the decks of the Yu-Gi-Oh! OCG Structures protagonist, Shoma Yusa. Who is Shoma, you may ask? Shoma is a lovable guy who's always ready to help out his friends and is very gluttonous when he comes to consuming whatever he wants. We're not talking about Gav Shoma, but I'm glad I caught you guys there. We're actually talking about his glutton for decks, as he loves building decks and playing Yu-Gi-Oh! It's a part of the story. For those who don't know, Shoma is the protagonist whose skill is building decks and using different types depending on what cards he has and the meta IRL. OCG Structures reflects not only the meta of the game as the recent chapter includes Meliss and Yummy, but it also reflects you, the player. It shows off all these archetypes and decks, and they aren't limited to a character or a power-up or an evil spirit ready to take over the world. It's a bunch of kids enjoying the decks they built and playing and meeting the people. In fact, Shoma specifically imagines and envisions himself interacting with the cards and the monsters to build the deck, talking with them and trying to make allies with them. It's such a fun experience. Even with dual discs and the holograms, it comes off less as magical artifacts or supernatural powers or technological beings meant to spite someone, and more so a playful area where anyone can play Yu-Gi-Oh!, interact, and make friends like in real life, and I love it. I want to give all these decks to the avatar because the avatar in forces, like Shoma, represents you. It gives you a chance to immerse yourself in a world where you can be the hero, one where you can build and customize yourself to be the best you can, and the one where you can be alongside your favorite characters. And I think now, reading OCG structures and reflecting on the avatar character, I realized why I made this video. I said this before, but whenever I obsess over Sonic, Yu-Gi-Oh! Follows right there and vice versa. They are conjoined, and that's when I realized it. They help shape the connections I made. I still remember yelling about Sonic in kindergarten and bringing my bootleg Yu-Gi-Oh! Cards to show off, or how during summer camp I played Yu-Gi-Oh! I still remember making friends and finally being in my own flow. It felt like I was being authentic and showing the world what I can do without restrictions. They are my biggest passion. Even when I fell out or I went over to other card games and games, I still know and thought about Sonic and Yu-Gi-Oh! And how those were the roots of them. I wouldn't have gone into Final Fantasy without seeing Final Fantasy Sonic X Flash games on my school computer. And I wouldn't have gone into Vanguard without begging my dad to take me to the local game store to play Yu-Gi-Oh! Even to this day, I still host Sonic and Yu-Gi-Oh! Events and meetups at cons, just to not only gush about what I love, but to make friends and make connections with people who love these franchises as much as I do. It's not only a rewarding experience, but it also helps me love what I love and meet new people that share the same passions. These followed me from my childhood and still to this day, and I'm forever glad they've made a permanent space in my life and who I am today. The story of a blue hedgehog and his friends fighting evil robots, or the story of an ancient pharaoh playing card games to save the world, or his other incarnations. Yu-Gi-Oh! And Sonic mean very much to me, and I wouldn't be here or I wouldn't be who I am without them today. No matter where I go, I will never forget how it all started for me. A young boy sitting in front of the TV every Saturday morning at 8 a.m. to watch Sonic X, and then Yu-Gi-Oh! At 9 a.m.